What happens when two men with completely different views on leadership and success face off in front of millions? One believes in speed and risk, the other in dignity and loyalty. But only one will walk away stronger. The cameras were rolling, the crowd hummed with anticipation, and millions tuned in as two titans, Denzel Washington and Elon Musk, faced each other across the stage. No one had the slightest idea how things would unfold. What began as a casual dialogue about ambition, success, and the American dream quickly took a surprising turn. The moderator, a veteran journalist with years of experience, leaned in and addressed them with admiration. "Mr. Musk, you've revolutionized the world with Tesla and SpaceX. Mr. Washington, you've left an indelible mark on Hollywood. Two giants, two completely different worlds. What fuels your drive?" Elon answered with a self-assured smile. "Honestly, I'm driven by progress. The world doesn't move unless someone is willing to take a risk. I believe in pushing limits, and yeah, sometimes that means bending the rules." Denzel didn't respond right away. Instead, he raised an eyebrow and locked eyes with Elon, giving him that famously cool and intense stare. The audience chuckled softly. They knew that look. It was the same steely gaze he'd given right before delivering a killer line in countless movies. Then Denzel spoke, his voice steady and firm. "My path was a little different. To me, progress without integrity isn't progress at all. It's just recklessness." The mood in the room shifted. Elon leaned back slightly, crossing his arms. "So, you're saying I don't have integrity?" "I'm saying that if you chase success without honoring the people who help make it possible, then that success doesn't mean much." A quiet murmur passed through the audience. Some nodded in approval, others looked around, sensing the atmosphere had changed. It was clear Denzel wasn't just talking about business, he was striking at something deeper. "Remember that question we asked at the beginning, what happens when risk and honor go head-to-head? You're witnessing the answer unfold right now." The moderator tried to ease the tension. "Gentlemen, let's stick to the topic." But Denzel wasn't done. "Let me tell you a story," he said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "There was a man who climbed so fast, he never stopped to look down. He forgot that every stone in his empire had been laid by someone else. And when he finally did look down," Denzel paused, letting the silence settle. "There was no one there to catch him when he fell." With a faint smirk, Elon leaned forward and spoke in an even tone. "That's a solid story, Denzel," he said. "But let's be real. If everyone waited for approval before trying to change the world, we'd still be riding horses." Laughter rippled through the audience, lightening the air for a moment. Elon pressed on, his trademark confidence returning. "I didn't get here by worrying about who was laying the foundation. I build rockets. I break limits. I take risks most people wouldn't even dream of." He locked eyes with Denzel. "If everyone always played it safe, innovation would die." Denzel took a moment, slowly nodding as though carefully weighing Elon's words. Then he leaned back, and a slight smile played on his lips, not one of amusement, but of recognition. "You think courage is the same thing as recklessness," Denzel said coolly. His voice was low, but it carried undeniable weight. "Let me tell you something, boy." The audience chuckled at the boy, but Denzel wasn't aiming for laughs. "The strongest men I've known weren't the ones who smashed every rule just to win. They were the ones who knew when to slow down, when to shut up and listen, and when to show gratitude to the people who helped them rise." His eyes bore into Elon's. "Because a leader without loyalty? That's just a man walking alone." Elon opened his mouth to reply, but Denzel wasn't done yet. "I've seen too many men think they were untouchable until the world reminded them they weren't." You could feel the air shift. The crowd was hanging on every word. A few people nodded quietly. Others whispered behind their hands. Even the host sat completely still, clearly captivated. Elon let out a soft laugh, but it lacked the spark from earlier. "So what? You think I should slow down and play it safe?" Denzel shook his head, firm but not unkind. "Not at all. I'm saying that building an empire? That's the easy part. Keeping it standing? That takes something else entirely." Another wave of silence rolled through the studio. It didn't feel empty, it felt heavy, thick with meaning. Elon Musk, the man known for his genius and lightning-fast comebacks, found himself at a moment of reckoning. Would he fire back like always? Or would he actually take in the lesson Denzel was laying out? He exhaled sharply, fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the arm of his chair. This kind of challenge wasn't just rare, it was public. And it wasn't about business anymore. It was personal. "I hear what you're saying," Elon finally said, his voice calmer now. "But let's be honest, this world doesn't reward caution. People don't remember the ones who played it safe. They remember the ones who flipped the table, who took the risks that changed everything." He leaned in again. eyes locked on Denzel. And let's not pretend you didn't do exactly that in Hollywood. Denzel let out a dry, amused chuckle and gave a slow shake of his head. You're not completely wrong, he admitted. Yeah, I took risks. I bent the rules. But there's a fine line between taking risks and thinking you're above the people who helped get you there. Elon narrowed his gaze. You think that's what I'm doing? You tell me, he said, straight to the point. How many of the people who helped you build Tesla and SpaceX are still standing behind you today? A quiet ripple of murmurs moved through the audience. Everyone knew the reputation Elon Musk's companies were famous not just for innovation but for high turnover. Brilliant minds had passed through, some singing his praises, others walking away with harsh words. It wasn't a secret. And for the first time, Elon didn't have a comeback. Denzel kept going. His tone remained steady, almost gentle, but his words cut with surgical precision. You can be the smartest man in the room. You can stretch the limits of science, reshape business, even redefine humanity itself. But if you lose the trust of the people walking beside you, he paused, his eyes locked on Elon. Then tell me, Elon, what are you really building? Elon's jaw tightened. The question didn't need explanation. It just sat there in the space between them, heavy and unspoken. He didn't answer right away. Couldn't. Well, that was intense, he said awkwardly. Then he turned to Elon. Mr. Musk, would you care to respond? Elon glanced over at Denzel, but this time, the usual spark of quick wit was missing. No sharp one-liner. No smug grin. Just a man sitting in silence, thinking. And for a man who always had the last word, that silence said a lot. Elon Musk, the man known for big visions and bigger answers, leaned back in his chair. He wasn't fidgeting or smiling anymore. His face looked different, slower, more grounded. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, heavier. I'll admit it, he said slowly. I don't always stop to think about the people who helped me build. I move fast. I expect results. Maybe that makes me hard on others, but in my world, slowing down can mean failure. He paused, then gave a small nod, like he was finally accepting something he'd been avoiding. But when you move that fast, sometimes the wreckage in your wake disappears before you even notice it. His face shifted. Something passed over it, a flicker of humility, maybe even regret. He leaned in slightly, meeting Denzel's gaze directly. You know, he said quietly, I've known men like you. Big dreamers. The kind who don't just chase ideas, they chase purpose. Some of them changed the world. But the ones who forgot to look back? He shook his head. They usually ended up alone, or worse, forgotten. Even the greatest empire, Denzel said, his voice carrying through the studio like a final note, is just a house of cards, if it's got no foundation. The entire room went still. Even the moderator, who had guided the evening with practiced ease, had nothing to say. Elon lowered his eyes, as if turning inward for the first time all night. It wasn't dramatic. It was reflective, honest, like he was considering something he hadn't let himself feel before. Then, slowly, he looked back up and faced Denzel again. You're an old-school guy, Elon admitted with a small, almost reluctant smile. But maybe, you're not wrong. Denzel responded with the faintest of smiles, just enough to say he heard him. Maybe even respected him. There they were, two men from different generations, different worlds. Both brilliant in their own way. Both stubborn. But in that moment, they weren't opponents. They were simply two men chasing the same thing, legacy. The audience could feel the shift. It wasn't about who won the argument anymore. It was about something much deeper. Something timeless.